Hey guys, Oof. Welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Justino Tweets and at She Knows Arsenal. Welcome to another daily download. We're going to be going through the most recent Arsenal transfer news, and my God, is there a lot of it? If you guys were here earlier, I went through, kind of gave you guys my instant reaction to the Raphinha news, and there's been more updates since then. There's also been updates on Lisandro Martinez, Gabriel Jesus, Tielemans, and maybe some others. Let me just check let me check Twitter really quick, just to make sure I haven't missed anything because things are updating like crazy and we have tons to talk about. But there's about 60 of you guys in here. So like the video and just subscribe to the channel. If you guys have ever been here before and you've seen me with my glasses, yeah, like, when I'm wearing my glasses, I'm on the struggle bus. Things are crazy. And I'm barely making it and I have work later, but I love this. Like this is it. Like I love it. Transfers are what it's all about. And I'm glad that Arsenal are finally involved in transfers. If you guys have been Arsenal fan for a while, you know that there's been many a transfer window that have passed by and we have not been anywhere near a part of it. So it's nice to know that we're kind of in it this time around. But I want to start off with Gabriel Jesus because I feel like that's the deal that has been at utmost priority and has moved is as close to being done as possible. So we'll start off with Gabriel Jesus, and um, there are reports that Gabriel Jesus's agents have come to England or have gone to London to finish the talks, to complete the deal, and so this looks like one that's pretty close to being done. Goal Brazil has pretty much said that like it's going to get done. We're good to go. And it was only just like yesterday where Marzio was saying like Tottenham are going to work in under the radar and all this kind of stuff. I always just feel like you get a sense, when a deal feels like it's close, and this one feels very much on the end. We could maybe be getting a Gabriel Jesus announcement this at the end of the week, or the deal could be done at the end of the week. We still need Fabio Vieira to be announced. So for me, I don't really care about the announcement. I care about it being done. I don't care I mean, I love the announcements and all that kind of stuff, but like as long as the deal is done, I'm pretty much like good to go. So Gabriel Jesus, which is the deal that, when I went to bed last night, I was like, this is the one that when I wake up in the morning, I want to feel like we've made some sort of progress. And it feels like that one is pretty much done. And I think we did kind of know that like Gabriel Jesus was a priority. Um, It'll be interesting to see what happens with Tielemans. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Gabriel Jesus was 100% a priority. The way that that deal is getting done, the way that kind of a lot of things have kind of stopped in order for us to get that one done. Um, I love it. So, yeah, the Gabriel Jesus deal is something that feels like it's coming to an end, which I absolutely love. You guys know I love Gabriel Jesus. I don't think that's enough, and that's where the Rafinha conversation comes in. But in terms of what he can add to Arsenal, I thought when we played our best football from, November to March and Lacazette was playing, obviously there was a level to go up from that. But Gabriel Jesus can do everything that Lacazette was doing during that time tenfold, 10 times better. And I get that there's questions around, how many goals is he going to get? But I think we're moving towards a team that's going to share goals. And so it won't be an Aubameyang situation where we have one striker that's scoring 20 to 25 goals. It'll be a team that everybody takes part in goal scoring. And for me, I think that's a better way to go. I know that there's and I feel like Gabriel Jesus will have to do his own part into convincing some Arsenal fans that he's the one and he's the player that's right for us. And that's just how it goes. Like every single transfer is not going to be met with 100%. every single fan buying into it. And I don't think every fan needs to be jumping for joy for Gabriel Jesus. If you don't think he's the one, fair. I think he's going to prove his worth. Will we still probably next summer maybe need to go in for the center forward, maybe, so we'll see what happens with that. But in terms of lifting that baseline up, lifting the technical quality of the team up, getting somebody that's been a part of an elite team and has the experience of winning the Premier League and playing at a high level, and also getting value for money, I do think that Gabriel Jesus presents the best possible option for Arsenal at the moment. And don't get it twisted. If Gabriel Jesus comes to Arsenal, that is a huge coup for Arteta and Edu, because other teams were interested. We know that they were. Other teams that are in the Premier League are interested. And for us to be able to convince him to come and basically turn down Champions League football is not something to be scoffed at. So you guys know I'm a big advocate for credit where credit is due. If Edu and Arteta can get this over the line, for me, I think this is a good deal. And big fan of Gabriel Jesus, and I think he'll do the business to prove a lot of Arsenal fans that he was the right choice. So there you go. Let's see. Jasper says, did you see the Sky Sports interview with the expert was talking about how Arsenal has to know what type of player Jesus is before buying him, as if Arteta doesn't know that? Sky Sports. Like, come on. Let's be real. Their whole thing is always trying to throw, some sort of doubt into Arsenal transfers and things like that. If anybody knows what kind of player Gabriel Jesus is, Adu and Arteta would know more than anybody. So I don't worry about that at all. And so we just have to see, if he comes through. I do think this deal gets done. I think it's far, far, far along, especially if his agent is flying in to make sure that it gets done. And so, yeah, like that, it seems like a good first statement signing, to be honest. Godwin says Gabriel Jesus is perfect. Arteta knows what he wants, and let's support our guys. The one thing that I do like is that a lot of stuff from Romano. Do I need to look, you guys? Do I need to look? I hate when I'm doing the stream and then, okay, give me just 1 second. Let me just look and make sure that Fabrizio Romano hasn't said anything. And he's kind of been on the pulse for Arsenal transfers this summer, which is odd because usually he's not way off base, but he clearly has some sort of connection in Arsenal this transfer window, which is interesting. Nice. Let's see. I'm just looking to see if you guys know what he said. Let me know, because I'm not really seeing anything new unless I missed something. So I haven't seen anything from Fabrizio just yet. But if you guys are seeing something that I'm not, please go ahead and put it in the chat. But Gabriel Jesus looks like it's going to get done. Love it. Thank you so much, Psalm 51, for your super chat. Saying it's school teacher vibes or school teacher mode, spectacles. Sure. I mean, I'm not going to dive too deep into maybe what that means, but yeah, like when I'm wearing my glasses, I'm struggling. That's pretty much what it is. And like, I am more than on the struggle bus right now. In terms of like, I just feel run down, but I love transfers, you guys. I really do. Let's see. Reliably informed that Deco agent of Raphinha has been in London today. So yeah, we kind of know, like we know that he's been in London. So I love that. There's about 200 of you guys in here. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we're just going to move right on along here into the Rafinha news. So let me make like a little boop. Okay. Rafinha. So earlier today when we had spoken, this was before there's been, because remember how I told you guys that like with Rafinha, if you guys weren't here in my earlier video, what I said is that it's all well and good for the transfer news to come out in Spain and Brazil, but it needs to be underpinned by the English media within like the next couple of hours, or it didn't happen as far as I'm concerned. So earlier, the information was just coming from Spain, Spanish goal and Brazilian goal, and it hadn't come from anywhere else. So I was a little bit reluctant to just dive straight in that Raphinha was close to signing for Arsenal. And then as I was at the gym, it was underpinned by English media. So I'll go ahead and read to you guys all the updates. ZRAFC, if you guys don't follow him, he does a really good job of kind of gathering all the news together so that you don't have to go to like a million different places to get it. But the summary of the Raphinha news is Fabrizio Romano says Arsenal are in direct negotiations with Leeds. Charles Watt says Arsenal believe they can get the deal done if Barca don't renew their interest. That's a really important point. Matej Moretto, who's pretty reliable, does say that Arsenal are making progress with the player's agent, which also kind of mirrors the news about Deco being in London. And Gary Jacobs, who's also pretty reliable, said Arsenal are set to make a £50 million bid. I don't think that's going to get it done. The quote price for this, progress has been made with, so I'll read you guys the actual quote from it. Progress has been made between Arsenal and Raphinha's reps, although no formal offer yet. Leeds are asking for 55 million euros plus 50 million in bonuses. So it's a 70 million pound or 70 million euro altogether, or 60 million pounds in total. So that's what they're asking for. I'm sure that we'll put in something. And it'll probably be rebuffed and then we'll have to go back in. Maybe. If I was Arsenal, I'd just go ahead and put in whatever they wanted so that we can get it over with. Deco is believed to have held meetings. I already told you guys that. So, that's pretty much where we are at with Raphinha. So getting different levels and different tiers of journalists speaking about it kind of in this with the same story, I do think gives some credibility to Raphinha being close to Arsenal. And, there were reports about Barcelona going with Di Maria, and also that the talks between Leeds and Barcelona have not been good. They've been very cold because Barcelona doesn't want to come up beyond 30 million for Raphinha. And so that's what's leaving the door open for Arsenal to get the deal done. And also, I think Raphinha wants his future sorted quickly. He just went through a relegation battle with Leeds. I'm sure he wants to get out of there as soon as possible, but also secure himself at a team that would showcase him or give him guarantees in terms of playing time so that he can make the Brazilian national team squad. That's very, very important to a lot of these players. So I do think that there's a chance that this deal does get done. It does seem a lot more realistic than it did a couple of hours ago. And but it's been met with a difference of opinion, and I've seen different sides of the coin in terms of the importance of this Raphinha signing for different Arsenal fans. And so I did put up a community poll asking you guys if you think Raphinha is worth the 55 million euros plus 15 million in add-ons, because I've seen, he's not worth that. He's average. He's not that good. I've seen everything from that to we have to get this player in. And also, kind of the questions around Tielemans. And is it more important to bring in a winger, or is it more important to bring in a central midfielder? And would bringing in Raphinha and Gabriel Jesus and Vieira ultimately would compromise the budget in some way? Which I think are all valid opinions and concerns, because as Arsenal fans, we're not used to having a budget that covers the majority of the issues that need to be solved. So I do understand why spending a lot on Raphinha, when seemingly I do think there's a section of the fan base that does think that, having Emile Smith-Rowe and Martinelli and Saka means that that position has enough quality where we need to be focusing in on central midfield. So I do understand that, and I do think that that's a valid point for people to make. And then, is Raphinha worth that? When I look at his statistics, if you just look at them at face value, he doesn't look, if you didn't know Raphinha, you would say that you probably thought he was kind of average, 11 goals and 3 assists. That's about-ish where our players are, in terms of like Saka in particular. but he's also was playing in a Leeds team that was struggling to survive. And I feel the same way about Richarlison as well, is that some players are quite good, but when you're in a team that's struggling for survival and there's not a lot going on and you change managers, it does hurt, your ability to really make a difference. And I do feel like in the case of Rafinha for us and Richarlison for Chelsea and Tottenham, who are very interested in him, what they have to look at is that those two players were both in relegation scraps, but also had a big hand to play. Like they were very influential in Everton and Leeds not getting relegated, both of them. So, yeah, maybe the statistics don't really stand out, but we also know that we have to pair statistics with the eye test and also use maybe add more context into it before you just say a player is average because they don't have 20 goals and 10 assists. If you put Raphinha or you put Richarlison in a different team and they're creating more chances and they're not under threat in terms of relegation and they have a settled squad and a settled manager, what could they do? And so in the case of Rafinha, I do think that when you add all that together, you could make a case for him being worth that much. And he's worth that much to Leeds. Let's keep it real. Leeds do not want to sell Rafinha. They're not going to be able to bring in a player of his quality to replace him. And so I do understand why they'd, especially because they're going to be selling to another Premier League side, why they want that amount. For me, the money doesn't matter as long as we know how we're going to use the player and we can almost predict a positive outcome. And also, if we can still get all of the other priorities taken care of, those are huge contingencies on whether you should spend this much on Rafinha. I do think what you can say is that Arteta and Edu would know how to use Rafinha, and they probably know how good of a player he can be, but also he's played in the Premier League, so it's not similar to Pepe in the way where he was kind of unknown and came to the league and then we're like, "Damn, he can't play in this league." We know Rafinha can. I think it's just a matter of like, do we get the other things that we need? And I think in particular, people are looking at central midfield like, are we going to be able to get Tielemans? Are we going to be looking at a midfield with Xhaka still in it because we're chasing after Rafinha? And is that worth it? And that's up to you guys to decide. Um, let's see. Lucas says Rafinha needs to be more direct playing for us. Joga Benito at the half line. Paul says you should always care what your club spends. It can create massive problems in the long term, and in short term, it can mean you're left short in key positions. Well, that's exactly why I said, like, again, I said I only care about what he would cost if we did not get the midfielder. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I caveated that already. So, but equally, I do think that we became accountants because our recruitment was so poor. That's why we became accountants, because the players that we were giving those huge contracts to and spending a lot on were crap, and we didn't get a return on our investment. So when you look at how we're recruiting now with the likes of like Tielemans, Raphinha, and Gabriel Jesus, you can kind of not guarantee an outcome, but you can predict a positive outcome because you've seen them in the league before. And in the cases of Rafinha and Gabriel Jesus, they've worked with Edu at least before. Not really Edu, but like Gabriel Jesus has worked with Edu and Arteta, and there's some sort of familiarity there. So for me, it's less of a risk to go for after these players than the players that we've been going after in the last couple of seasons. But you only become accountants when you're poorly ran and you don't get the other targets. And as of now, I don't really see anything that would mean that we're not going to get other targets because we get Rafinha. So I get your point about we should always care about what the team is, what the club is spending. But if Rafinha comes in and scores 15 goals and looks really good and allows Saka to rest and he hits the ground running, you don't actually care. You only care when your team when the recruitment is poor. And that's the only point that I'm trying to make. Um, let's see. Rye Dog says Pepe is actually good. Well, I didn't say he wasn't good. I said that he didn't fit the league. Like he couldn't play in this league. So, or he couldn't play for this. Let's not, I just, I know that we want to rewrite history a little bit, but like he wasn't even that great under Emery, you know? So, because Emery didn't even really want him. So ultimately, what Pepe comes down to is poor recruitment in terms of fit with the club and the managers that have been here. Not necessarily, I'm not saying he doesn't have talent, but ultimately, I feel like we don't need, I know that Pepe is kind of like a, but he didn't never get a chance. He did get chances. He just didn't take them. He didn't get a run of games, but a lot of times you don't get a run of games. You know, you have to play well in those chances that you get in order to get a run of games. And he never did it. So I don't know if we need to like sit here and rehash it. And Pepe's leaving Arsenal this summer, you know? St. Vincent says, do you see maybe Saka actually taking the 8 spot as well as Raphinha on the right-hand side if we get Tielemans? What I do see is, you know, a player that can come in and allow Saka to play on the left or rest or give him decent competition, really good competition. And I do think Saka can play multiple positions. I do think Saka is more than just a winger. I think Saka can be whatever he wants to be. If he could play, there was one game that he played left 8, and I thought you could probably cook here too. You know, Saka is such a good player and an intelligent player, and he can do pretty much anything he wants to. So having somebody like Rafinha there could unlock, you know, more possibilities for Bukayo Saka. But the most important thing I think is giving him competition. That's the most important thing, and also allowing him to sit down. Reggie says we became accountants because the club kept buying bad and telling us we needed to sell in order to buy. Last summer and this summer seems to be different, and we need to recognize that. Look, if you want to count the pennies and you know and go into that, the only time I'll be worried about spending this money on Rafinha is if it means that we don't address other issues that are glaring, you know. And it looks like Gabriel Jesus is almost done. We know that Vieira is done. The only thing that's kind of sitting there in the back of my mind is what's going to go on with Tielemans, and we'll talk about him in just a second. Let's see. Blaze says, just I don't think Raphinha deals will affect the Tielemans deal. We need both of them in this transfer window because Arsenal need to add quality to our squad. Yeah, no, I hear that. Lucas says exactly. Just Saka can play everywhere. He's only a right wing now because we need him as an outlet there. And Saka's been carrying this team on his back for like 2 seasons now, but you know, I do think Saka has a future in other positions. I do think he's more of a Foden type player where you can kind of plug and play him kind of anywhere and he can do his thing. So, you know, I think it's important to bring in more players like this so that we don't have to like you have to play right wing because you could have used Saka in several different positions last season, but you couldn't because you didn't have somebody else that Arteta trusted. So yeah, let me see what before we get off of this, let me look at the community poll. 64% of you guys said Rafinha is worth that fee. And 36% of you guys said no. So it's kind of a lot of people are saying yes. So yeah. Awesome. Jermaine Grigor says Rafinha signs we should just play a back 3, Saka and Tomiyasu wing backs and Party Tielemans, Jesus, Martinelli, Rafinha. You know, why would we play a back 3 though? I mean, we've been pretty much building into a 4-3-3 for the last 2 seasons. I don't see a reason to rip it up now, especially because we're so close. Like we're so close to getting into the 4-3-3. So I do think it would be nice to have that option. Like if we needed to go away from home to a place that we don't really play well at, your Anfields, your Etihad stadiums, you know, things like that, to maybe be able to play somewhat of a back 3, but you know, I wouldn't rip it up just now. You know, because we're doing kind of well in the 4-3-3 as it stands. Dominic says, I like Saka as a winger. He's the most dangerous in ISO situations with space to attack. I agree. I like him as a left 8. I like him as a left wing. I loved him as a right wing. I like him as a left wing back. He's just such a good player. And like it's very rare to find good like players that can play at a high level in most positions. That's what makes Saka so good, you know, and like I don't want people to think that because I'm saying Saka needs competition and we need to make sure that we have leverage when we do our contract negotiations with him that I don't love him. I love Bukayo. I think he's amazing. He's great, but ultimately I do think about what's best for the club. And I do think it's important to bring a player like this in, even if that means that Saka, has competition. Obina says Arteta is building Arsenal in the same fashion Pep did for City, loads of wingers with goals and assists in them. So yeah, there's 330 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to move on to Tielemans, and then we'll talk about Lisandro Martinez last. So make sure you guys are tuned in. This is going to be a little bit of a short one, you guys. I'm going to try to get through these as quickly as possible because I do have to go to work. And this can't go to work. So yeah, I got to make it go quick. But yeah, we're going to get through all of these. Tielemans. So the most recent scoop on him is that Charles Watts says we are like kind of cooling the talks down. I think it's important to also note that he said cooling talks down, not cooling interest in Tielemans, so that we can get other deals done faster. And I'm getting the sense with Tielemans that Leicester want a bigger fee than Arsenal are willing to pay. And because there's not a lot of interest in Tielemans and we feel confident that we can get the deal done, we're going to wait it out a little bit longer and see if we can get a lower fee. That's what it feels like to me. Nobody has said that our interest in Tielemans has gone away or that we're not looking to bring him in. Nobody has said anything like that. They've some reports have been a little bit more ambiguous about whether or not we want to move players on first. I can see maybe wanting to sell Granit Xhaka or Torreira first in order to bring in a midfield slot or make a midfield position open. But I'm not too worried about this one. If it had said we're cooling our interest, then I would be like, oh my gosh, it's over. But cooling the talks, I think more signals that, we want to get Gabriel Jesus done. We have to focus on Raphinha. Those two players have interest from other teams that could, if they really wanted to, they could blow us out of the water. So I do think that focusing in on deals where there's multiple teams that may be interested in, and these are big, big signings, we do need to go ahead and get that done. And then kind of focus on Tielemans at the back end of the transfer window, or maybe in a couple of weeks when these ones are kind of tied down. But I do think that this one still is in the cards. I know that it's like, oh my gosh, we're not focusing in on it. But the best thing that Arsenal can do if they want to get the deal done is to wait longer, especially if they know that there's not a lot of interest in Tielemans, because it's risky. But if you wait longer, Leicester need to sell Tielemans in order to replace him. So eventually we'll come to some sort of agreement. And there was a quote coming from, let me see if I can find it really quickly, you guys, if you just hold on really quick, that there will be some time before the first bid is made. That was coming from Sasha Tavlioveri, who is a well-known like Belgian expert, said that there will be some time before the first bid is made so that all parties are happy with the conditions, which means that there's probably a gap between valuations at the moment. Last time I read, Leicester want 45 million for Tielemans, and we want something closer to 25. So there is a gap there. And so this one might take a little bit longer than, maybe we first expected. And also, if Arsenal were able to sell Granit Xhaka or Torreira, that might give us more funds to maybe make a higher bid later. So I'm not too worried about this one, to be honest, but I can understand why not addressing midfield first and getting Raphinha and Gabriel Jesus and even maybe Lisandro Martinez might be, like, oh shit, like what are we doing? But I wouldn't worry too much about this one. But what are you guys thinking about Tielemans so far? Let's see. Axel says, go hard for Tielemans. Give him a deadline. If he's still unsure, go hard for. Well, Tielemans is not unsure. Tielemans, as far as I know, you know, personal terms are not an issue. He wants to come. So it's not about Tielemans. Tielemans is not worried about it. I think the issue is Leicester don't want to give him away for free. Leicester are a well-run club, And losing a player like this for 25 million would hurt them, because just a couple of seasons ago, you could have probably gotten 50 or 60 million for him. So I do think they're playing hardball, and we're playing hardball as well. But if you want to play hardball, you're gonna have to wait it out a little bit longer, or else you're just gonna have to give in to their demands. Um, so it's not about Tielemans being unsure. It's about Leicester being well run and not wanting to just give in. So we just have to, wait it out a little bit longer. In terms of like Ericsson, like we're not going to get Ericsson. I think he's almost surely going to United, and I would just wait it out a little bit longer. If you want to get the price down. Let's see. Um, let's see. Um, George says, huge gap reminds me of Madison saga last year. Leicester didn't want to know after a while and told Arsenal to go away. But the difference is that Madison had just signed a long-term deal and Tielemans has 1 year left. So as much as Leicester want to play hardball at some point, especially if Tielemans decides to act, because the one thing is that Leicester fans got really excited about the idea that Tielemans was going to sign a new contract. He's not. That's not in his mind. That's been reported by multiple journalist at this point. So it's a completely different situation than the Madison one. He has a long-term contract, so they could continue on asking for 60 to 70 million. And we had another option that we were looking at anyway, in Odegaard. And also what I also read, that was being pushed through by intermediaries as well. So, but this is completely different. We know that the talks are pretty far along. We know Tielemans kind of is interested in coming, and he only has 1 year left. So at some point, Leicester need to figure out what they want to do. And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but he completely down tools on you guys. So if you have to stay another season, what do you think you're gonna get from him? Leicester know they need to sell. This is completely different than Madison, in my opinion. Um, so let's see. She Knows Football says, let's buy Jess a David Louise fathead for her room. Sideshow bob hair. You guys, no, absolutely not. Axel says, love Tielemans, by the way, would fit into Arteta's system. Love how calm he is on the ball. Looked really great in international break with Belgium. He's a perfect hybrid player. I think so as well. I just don't really feel like I've seen anything that would suggest that we're not going after him. We just want to get the price down. And he's a priority, but a priority probably at the right price. And we know that Leicester doesn't have as much leverage as they think I think even Leicester knows that they don't have that much leverage as well. So we just have to wait it out. It's really early on in the transfer window as well. Like it opened 10 days ago. So we still have some time to go, in this one. Lewis Christie says 35 million is the limit of what I'd pay. If Leicester play hardball, the player will most likely run down his contract and come to us for free. I mean, he's not going to sign a new deal. That's the thing. It's like, I get where Leicester fans feel like this might be similar, but to me, it's nothing similar. And, for people that are like, well, why did we pay so much for Gabriel Jesus when he had 1 year left? It's because it's not relevant to Manchester City. They're never in a situation where losing their players for free would financially cripple them or would hurt them in any way financially. So they can hold on to their players for high value. And he also had multiple teams interested in him. Nobody else is really interested in Tielemans but us. And Leicester can't afford to let a player who probably in a normal market or with more years on his deal would cost you 40 to 50 million. They can't allow that player to go away for free. So we're going to have to negotiate somewhere, and to not act desperate as well is a good thing, because also what Tielemans is watching happen is Arsenal get new players in as well. So he might start to agitate soon. So yeah, I just think we just have to wait a little bit longer for this one. And we're not going to get every single player at the beginning of the window. Something is going to happen towards the end, if that makes sense. EK says, as long as he's signed before preseason tour, then it's calm. Let's see. Race Bots Odyssey says, I know it's not money, but for some reason I'm not prepared to play more than 25 million for any player with 1 year left on his contract. I feel like it depends on who the player is and of course what their situation is and are they your priority. So to me, it's the Jesus situation is so different than Tielemans to me, because it's Manchester City. They're not in any sort of like rush or anything like that. They're not under any pressure. Glenn says, "Is this the Arsenal we're used to? We're actually making offers this time." Um, well, after what happened in January, they kind of had to put their money where their mouth is. You know, that's the reality, is that like I'll never forget what it felt like when the January transfer window closed and we didn't do anything. And ultimately, you could look at that as a sliding doors moment in terms of our chase for top four. I know some people said it was injuries and it was this and it was just that, but had you had reinforced in January, we may have made top four. So they had to be really aggressive this window, especially because that was a really good opportunity to, while teams were really weakened, to jump ahead of the queue. And now with Man United trying to rebuild and Spurs looking strong, they can't just sit around and bring in two players and take all summer to do it. They got to do it now. So, of course, I'm surprised by what they're doing, but equally, they have to because of the choice that they made in the summer, or in January. Let's see. Marvin Payne says everyone keeps talking this contract talk. Listen, just like we're doing with Jesus, go in and get your man. Um, yeah. And we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know what people are really saying. We just know what the journalists are giving us. So we don't know where the deal is actually, but I would just wait this one out, especially because if you feel like you're not under that much threat to lose Tielemans, but you could potentially lose Gabriel Jesus if you wait, because the reality is if you wait on Gabriel Jesus and Raphinha, you're not getting them. So I understand that, but I completely understand everybody's concerns, and feeling worried about, the midfield situation. I have it in the back of my mind as well, but I'm not like super, freaked out just yet. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. There's 365 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now we have another saga that we need to talk about as well, which is Lisandro Martinez, which I love this. This is the game right here. This is the game right here. So let's talk about this. Let's just chat. So I saw some people freaking out this morning about Lisandro Martinez, and that AFC Ajax had put out, a report or whatever about, Manchester United wanting to put in a 40 million euro bid for Lisandro Martinez. And I told you guys earlier that I wasn't that worried about it, because you have to also remember, like, from where is he getting, where would he be getting this information from? AFC Ajax most likely has connections at Ajax. And if Manchester United were going after Lisandro Martinez in any significant way, the English media would have picked up on it. So Samuel Lockhurst, the guys that are really close to their club would have picked up on it. And I looked for anything from them, and I didn't see anything. I only saw a report from him. And then just a couple hours after that, because I was thinking that that was Ajax trying to put pressure on Arsenal, because they don't actually want to sell Lisandro Martinez. I think they're kind of annoyed that Arsenal have come in for him. And because he's also forcing the move. He wants to come to Arsenal, so he's forcing the move, and they don't like it. So what happens is when clubs are not happy about having to sell their players, they want to get as much money for them as possible. So like I said, I wasn't really worried about it, especially because Manchester United had prioritized a right center back. They prioritized Jurrien Timber. And so the idea that they would just switch over to Lisandro Martinez just because Arsenal made a bid or made an offer, I don't think really makes a lot of sense. So, it just didn't feel like anything substantial. Now, it could become more substantial, but what I'll read to you guys is the most recent thing is that Manchester United are interested in Lisandro Martinez, but he's not a priority for them. Arsenal remain interested. He's a priority for us. That's important. Being a priority to a player makes a difference. And so them prioritizing Jurrien Timber and only registering maybe interest when Arsenal became interested is not a good look. Lisandro Martinez is keen on a move to Arsenal, but Ajax aren't keen on selling. A decision should be made soon. He has been linked to United, but remains to be seen what happens. Ajax will mostly let him go at the right price. which pretty much backs up kind of what I was saying earlier, which is he's an option for them, but I know they're also more interested in Pau Torres, um, and another center back as well. So them just trying to hold on to him or keep tabs on him because Arsenal are interested is not going to be enough to keep him at Ajax or keep him from making the move to Arsenal. This move is pretty far along at this point. So I think as long as Arsenal put the bid that Ajax would be happy with, which I think is about 40 million euros, which don't kill me, but maybe like 35 million pounds, and then we may be able to get this over the line. So this is another one that has to be done quickly because if you let it fester too long, if Manchester United lose out on their their bigger priorities, then they may look to get Lisandro Martinez. And that's very similar to Gabriel Jesus, very similar to Raphinha. These players, if you wait too long, you lose out on them. So this is one that, again, like I said this morning, I'm not too worried about it. I kind of figured something like this would come out later, that they're not really prioritizing him. That was very clear by the fact that they went really hard for Jurriën Timber. And so I wouldn't worry about this one too much. I could see this one getting done as well. So, and that report about him being linked to United, but there's nothing really concrete there. That's coming from Roy Neymar, and he's close to Argentina, or the Argentinian national team. So that's pretty much what the Martinez situation is right now. She Knows Football, thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Race Bots Odyssey says there's these rumored incomings look good, but none cover what we actually need. KT cover, Tomiyasu cover. Well, Lisandro Martinez actually does cover KT because he plays left back as well. In terms of Tomiyasu, you have Ben White that can play there. And then I have a feeling that Brooke Norton-Cuffey is going to do good in preseason, and he may take that spot. Party cover, Lisandro Martinez can also play DM. And once they, signed El Neni up to a new deal, I didn't see us really going big on that position. Xhaka cover replacement, that's Tielemans, which again there's nothing about Arsenal have stopped going after him. It just, we have other things. And then Gabriel Jesus is Lacazette's replacement. So we actually are covering everything that you're saying. So I'm not quite sure where that's coming from, to be honest. So Lauren says Arsenal is doing good. Just need to get the deals over the line. That's the reality, Jasper says, who the F needs a big striker? Welcome to modern football. You don't need a target man. Ezekiel says, we will go for Osimhen next season. We can't do it all this window. That's a really good point. Navindra says, Jess, we are looking at 3 left-footed CB. Timber is first choice after Man United, looking at all left-footed CBs, but he's not your priority, and he's a priority for us. So regardless if you guys are looking at left back or left center backs, if he's not a priority, he's not going to wait for you guys just so you could filter through your other targets. So I understand that, but just him not being a priority, players want to feel like the team wants them badly. Especially, is Lisandro Martinez, would he start at Man United? I think that's another thing that I pointed out, is that you're fighting with Harry Maguire, and as much as people know that he could be a calamity, I don't see him being benched with Ten Hag right away. So I think there's just a lot of things going in our favor. If they firm up their interest and they put in a bid, then we might be in trouble. But the links coming from AFC Ajax that clearly are coming from the Ajax side of things, which saying that another team is going to bid for your player would maybe hurry you up a little bit. Also, under those reports being underpinned by people saying that Man United, it's not a priority, but for Arsenal it is, I think would speak to the reality of the situation. He's our number one priority. He's not Man United's number one priority. He's not going to wait around to see if Man United, want him. And I also have questions on whether Ten Hag has a monopoly over all Ajax players or just the Dutch ones. But that's not to say that we'll get him, but I do think we have a good chance. Oh, and Lisandro Martinez is also very keen on the deal and is pushing it through. So there you go. There's a lot of things going in our way. Zach says Tierney upgrade next season, Theo Hernandez. Now, next summer, that's going to be interesting. I know we're talking about this summer, but you can see, some things needed to be taken care of. Backup central defensive midfielder, Tierney. I would say if he can't stay fit this season, he might be moved on next summer. Would be a guess. And if we don't get a center forward next summer. So some things could actually, be in the works in terms of next summer based on what we don't get this summer. Axel says Martinez is a baller, Ajax player of the season, able to play CB, LB, and central defensive midfielder. Looks amazing. Could be a new Petit in the making. Petit arrived as a left back. Fair enough. I love Petit. Let's see. Rydog says, did you see the links of Tierney to Man City? I did. I have a hard time believing that they would bring him in. I don't think we would sell him for cheap. And to bring in somebody who has injury issues, I think, I think that he's on a list, but Kukurea is obviously top of the list. And so I wouldn't really worry too much about that. So yeah, let me check, make sure there's nothing else coming up. Make sure there's nothing else coming up. All right. We're good. We're good here. People are still saying that we need a tall forward. I think I would say I would want a tall forward more than we need it, but hey, once you sign Eddie and Kedia and El Neni extensions, kind of, I think were not a clear message, but somewhat of a message that we're probably not going to go after another center forward and a central defensive midfielder. So there you go. Let's see. Travis says we should be targeting Gnabry because Raphinha would cost so much. Well, there's never been any substantial Gnabry stuff. Like everything has kind of died off of that. So I think you go after players that you want and want and you just move forward. You don't chase after like pipe dreams like Gnabry. He's going to want 390 grand per week. And who knows what he would want because he'd be going from Champions League to Europa League. So when you add the wages in, can you really guarantee that Gnabry would be significantly cheaper? I'm not sure. Especially because I also think people forget that you pay these fees in installments. So it's not like you're going to pay it all up front anyway. So, sorry. I know that maybe Leeds would want a lot up front. I think I did read something like that. But when you add wages in there and you also combine that with having to pay in installments, I don't think, Gnabry would really be that much cheaper. I mean, this guy wants a lot of wages, and to come down to Europa League, I do think it would cost a lot, especially because he's in his prime. Jasper says Raphinha is pretty much the only player who can cover Saka if needed and also play left wing, a rare profile. And he also can get better. He's 25. He can also get better. And I think that's the one thing about, a lot of the analysis on Gabriel Jesus, Tielemans, and Raphinha is that they're all at an age where they could get better. So it's not a guarantee that they do, but at the starting point, they're already better than the players that we have. And if they get better, they can take us to the next level. So I just think, it's kind of like a win-win. King Sate says, if a tall player was essential, then surely we would have targeted it and try to buy one. Keenan says, let's get top 4 and then go in for a marquee striker to compete with Jesus next season when we can have Champions League football levels, people. I mean, I think that kind of may be the plan, because when you look at the tall forwards that are on the market right now, you're looking at, and when I say on the market, I mean on the market, they're not really available. So when you think about it, it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Osimhen, and Tammy Abraham. That are the ones that are still available because Nunez and, Holland or wherever they're at. I mean, value for money, right? Osimhen, you're going to have to pay, what, €100 for him? For somebody who's never really broke 25 goals a season at Napoli? I mean, to me, that's risky. You look at Tammy Abraham, and in order to get him, you have to deal with Roma and Chelsea. So that's going to cost you at least 60 to 80 million. That's the quoted price. And that's what's ultimately stopped Arsenal for really going after him. And then you have Dominic Calvert-Lewin, somebody with huge injury issues. I do think he's better than what people make him out to seem. But I also I'm not convinced that he's Arsenal quality, especially at 60 million, which is the quoted price from Everton. So, it's one of those where maybe we wait for the striker market to um, recycle and get better again, and we see what's available to us in the next 1 to 2 years instead of going after somebody just because they're tall and ultimately them not working out. Again, I think Gabriel Jesus has a easier predicted outcome than those three that I just named. Um, so yeah, let's see. Sheridan 95 says, I don't understand why Arsenal use Karen to cross the ball and no one is there to head it in. We only start crossing the ball when we don't have any other options. Um, we're not actually a crossing team. We're a cutback team. And we only start hoofing crosses in when we can't break down the low block and we run out of ideas. Having better technical players that can actually think and create beyond our patterns of play will stop us from having to just kick the ball, into the box. And I don't think Arteta can really control Cedric because that guy just crosses it to nobody all the time. So, and I do think we equate height with aerial ability. And did you consider Aubameyang a really good header of the ball? Not really. He was 6'2". Tammy Abraham is not really prolific with his head either. And he's what, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", whatever. So some of the best players in the box that I've seen are like Diego Jota, Mane, um, Gabriel Jesus scores quite a bit with his head. So I don't necessarily feel like height is actually, you know, like means you're a good aerial threat. And I don't actually believe we're a crossing team. I think we're a cutback team. We have some players that don't really have the ability to think beyond crosses, and that's why they're not very good. But like ultimately the way that we play, we're not a crossing team. We're a cutback team. So yeah. Lewis says Raspadori and Scamacca from Saulo, I would take all day long over Eddie and Jesus. Fair enough. Travis says, I think Osimhen can turn into a world-class striker. If he had Odegaard and Saka, he would score way more. Well, he most likely will still be there next season. So if we still think he's that good, then maybe we'll go back in for him. I don't think we're gonna miss out on him. Rye Dog says Lautaro scores tons of headed goals and he's 5'9". Let's see. Ify says it's why we're getting creative players. I like the idea. She knows football. Another super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that so much. Let's see. Rye Dog says Osimhen is elite with his head. He is, but equally is he worth 80 million pounds? Do you think? Do you think he's worth just getting him and not getting Gabriel Jesus and Raphinha? Would you take both of those out just to get Osimhen? Because that's the situation that we're in. So I don't know. I don't know that if I actually would prefer Osimhen and Nketiah over Gabriel Jesus, Raphinha, and Nketiah. I don't know that that's how I truly feel. And I feel like we should wait for the striker market to heal. And then maybe there'll be somebody else better out that. So P. Trim says, extremely excited about Lisandro Martinez in addition to Vieira. EK says, the most important thing is finding space in the box by losing your marker, which Jesus is good at. Keenan says, I'm really glad we kept Eddie. He has potential to become elite, and buying two strikers would completely shut him out of the team. So yeah, it's one of those where I do understand the concern. It's like I had an idea about who we were going to get and who we're going to target, and I'm not seeing those links. So maybe you're a little bit frustrated. But ultimately, if what we do get is successful, I won't care about what I wanted more, if that makes sense. And I think that's where Arsenal fans will have to come around to, is accepting the players that we are going after and hope that they're better than what we've had before. There's more than one way to become successful. We see multiple teams. You look at Liverpool and Man City, they do very little similarly. They're not very similar, but they're both quite successful. So I do think you have to look at it and say there's more than one way, um, to be successful and win. We just have to hope the way that we're going is the right way for us. And that's ultimately how I look at these links, to try to understand what Arteta and Edu are trying to build. And I think it's quite clear which direction we're going in. I think some people are maybe a little bit maybe disappointed in the fact that it's doesn't look like it's going to be power and pace. It's definitely going to be more technical, type skill and stuff like that. But if it's successful, then what can you do? That's what we have to look forward to now. And ultimately we'll find out, right? Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's almost 400 of you guys in here. I really do appreciate that. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I do have to go now. I wish I could stay a little bit longer, but I need to get ready for work. So I will most likely be back tomorrow. I'm working on a guest for Wednesday, a really good guest. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. And if I get confirmation tomorrow that he will be on the show, then I will let you guys know about it tomorrow, around the same time tomorrow. So yeah, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Love you guys. Bye.